Dad and Mom told me to invite my sister to my wedding since she slept with one of my ex-boyfriends. They told me they wouldn't come if I didn't. I'm Katie, I'm 27F, and I just got married. Today looks like it will be one of the best days of my life, right? But not really. What was supposed to be a nice party turned into a crazy circus because of my great family. I couldn't enjoy the moment because I was always trying to stay out of danger. It looked like they were determined to ruin my wedding. They almost did it, to be honest. But I'm not one to just take it. To show them what's okay, I decided to punish them. There's talk that I'm the bad guy in this whole thing. Anyone can help me with this, so let me tell what took place. Let me tell you some facts. I'm the 5th child and the youngest. First, there's my mom. She's just like an almond mom should be. That person who tries a new diet all the time, sometimes in a sneaky way and sometimes not so sneakily. Everything you eat makes you look bad. But my dad only cares about money. He doesn't seem to care about anything that isn't about trading, stocks, or the word profit. Now let's talk about my sister. To use a nice word, she's a nightmare. Things were never good. Just between us. I was just there, and she was always the good kid. She could always make my life bad when I was a kid. She always found ways to make fun of me in public and make it look like I was the bad guy. We're not getting along very well. My grandma is the only family member I get along with. The only person who's ever made me feel like I mattered, and the nicest, most normal person I've ever met. I spent most of my childhood at a private school, so I never really got close to anyone in my family. I didn't get any attention, but my sister did. I was pretty much forgotten. My aunt and I also got along well. I thought she was the cool and fun adult. We were together a lot, but then when I was 13, she suddenly moved out. I never really. I knew what caused it, and it happened just before I started private school. That meant I had no more ties with her or, really, with my family. Let me explain how I got into my chosen school. The short story. My sister is to blame. She was very upset that her parents were going to have another child. She wanted to be the only one getting attention, making it her life's work to make my life awful. She always put the blame on me. I was always the one who got the blame when my sister broke things around the house, like my mom's favorite vase or my dad's golf awards. She would act like she was not guilty, tears and all, and make up a silly story about how I did it. They even thought I had stolen money from a wallet from my dad once. I had no idea where he kept it, so that didn't make sense. Still, they did believe her. When I was 12, things went crazy. She once ruined her mom's favorite white couch with red juice and told her I did it because I wasn't paying attention. She said she saw me tearing up my dad's important work papers when I was bored. Of course, they always believed her. The days will go by, but the stories I tell about my sister will always be true. Getting back to the point. The last straw for me was when she broke a crystal bowl that had been in my family for many years. She kept saying that I was messing around and knocked it over. The parents were very mad. They didn't pay attention to me because they sent me to private school because they thought I was a bother. For most of my life, I never saw or heard from them. They never really showed up to any of my school events. A long time ago, I played the piano at a big show. I thought it was very important. I looked out into the crowd. I was hoping to see them there, but all I saw were some strangers. Years ago, I spent weeks on a science fair project. When I won first place, no one was there to celebrate with me. They didn't call either. After a while, it didn't bother me because I was mostly by myself. It got used to not having them. Look around. When I went back to my city for college after high school, I thought things might be different. When I moved back in with my sister, the trouble started up again. She could still make everything about herself and find fault with everything. Everyone liked my sister in college. People knew her because she had lived in the area her whole life. I, on the other hand, was the new kid trying to fit in. She didn't like it when people compared us, though, so she made it her mission to be my worst enemy. At first, she was rude to us when we were with her friends. One time, she told everyone that I was a late bloomer in school. It wasn't even true. Another time, she threw a big party and made sure I wasn't invited to make me feel like I didn't fit in. The last blow was prom night. When I caught her, she didn't even try to hide the fact that she was with my boyfriend. She seemed to want me to see her brag about him in public. She was so clear about it that it looked like she was talking about how she could take anything, even my boyfriend. I was done. I thought my mom would help, or at least understand when I told her about it, but she just brushed it off like it wasn't a big deal. I made the decision to leave. Because of this. When I went to college and university in a different place, I picked up and moved away from my family. I finished high school and college in the place where I moved. They decided to help me pay for school, which meant I had to ask them for money. I learned a long time after the fact that Grandma, not Mom and Dad, was paying for it. Someone did try to help though. While I was making my new life, I met a great guy. I said yes when he asked me to marry him. He was so kind to me, and I felt like I was loved for the first time. We decided to get married, and it was even better than I thought it would be. I had to tell my family right now. I was both scared and excited to tell everyone the news, because of everything I had been. It was important to me that they knew I was okay and happy. They didn't seem very excited when I told my family about the proposal. They didn't seem very interested. All they did was say okay in a casual way. Okay. It didn't seem to bother them too much, but they weren't happy about it either. I wasn't expecting them to get so excited all of a sudden, so that was fine with me. Then the wedding plans began. My mom told me that this time I should have the wedding at home. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I liked that idea. Since I had made a life for myself in this town, I chose to have the party here. That's why I decided to stay put and have the wedding close to home. They weren't really there when it was time to make plans. It wasn't very helpful or kind of them. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law, on the other hand, were very helpful. They really pitched in and helped with everything, even going over the location to making sure that everything was planned out. It was a lot more fun because they made me feel welcome and supported. It was time to invite everyone. After they left that night, I talked to my mom. She told me the cards were bad because I forgot to write my sister's name on them. She brushed it off and said it didn't matter because she had already told my sister about the wedding and that everyone would be there. I stopped and thought, wait a minute, I wasn't meaning to include her. She's not allowed at my wedding, but Mom didn't pay attention to me, as if I were having a rage tantrum. She told me not to be silly because it was just a small mistake. When I told my mom that my sister, I didn't want her there because she had slept with my ex, she told me I was being unfair and had a grudge against her. This is a chance to get back together with her, she told me. Don't let old grudges get in the way of family ties. I was shocked to the core. Really? Getting back together with someone who did me so much harm? It looked like my mom didn't care about how I felt and cared more about making the family happy than about my health. I couldn't make it work. I told my mom that my family had never really been together because I was always left out. I knew for sure that I didn't want my sister to be at my wedding. Mom told me that if I didn't let my sister come, no one else in the family would. That was the last blow. When she used that against me, I was so mad that I couldn't believe it. I stopped even trying to argue. After hanging up the phone, I knew she wouldn't be at the wedding. It hit me after I had been mad about everything for a while. I didn't want my sister to be at my wedding, so my family said they wouldn't go. But they never really cared about how I felt. Why should I care what they think? I chose to get up. I was going to ask my aunt about the person who caused a lot of trouble in my family. It wasn't exactly the right thing to do, but it felt right. My family liked to play games, so I'd find someone fun to do with them to show them I wasn't going to let them control my day. I'll tell you a little about my aunt's past. Dad didn't like her very much, and they always had problems. Her kindness and care for my sister never changed, though. Me and you. After that, I don't know what happened, but it was a big problem, so she left. I thought that her dad had set her up and made things hard between her and her grandma over the years. There were also problems in her marriage, which I thought were mostly her mom's fault. But it was clear that her dad had hurt her a lot. I never got the whole story. This is why I decided to call my aunt. It might be time to get in touch with someone who cared about me and was hurt by my family. It looked like the scales were level. It was tough to reach my aunt. Beginning. When I tried to call her, she didn't answer. I picked to meet her in person instead of asking her for help. I was lucky that she didn't live too far away, but I was shocked to find out that she had lived here her whole life. She was a little cold when I got to her house. My mom, dad, and sister had ignored me and hurt me, so I told him about it. He asked me to come in. She started to tell me about what had happened with her family as we sipped our tea. Aunt really did have a boyfriend that Grandma didn't like. Mom and Dad lied to Grandma and told her aunt was going to run away, but they didn't care about how she felt. They told Aunt that Grandma had told her to break up with her boyfriend or the family would kick her out. Aunt was really mad and tried to calm Grandma down. But Grandma already knew that Aunt had chosen the boyfriend over her. Things quickly got worse. Grandma got a small shock and had to go to the hospital. Dad didn't really tell Aunt that Grandma didn't want to see her and wouldn't accept her. When Dad said Aunt had left Grandma when she was in trouble, which made Aunt feel cheated and rejected, he was still manipulating her. Mom and Dad did more than that. People kept saying that Aunt was cold and self-centered, and that she didn't care about how the family looked. They even said Aunt stole money from Grandma's account to buy things for her man, which was not true at all. After the fact, Aunt learned that my parents had likely gone to a lot of work to make her dislike Grandma. They had been through a lot together, and she didn't want to face Grandma again. She never tried to make things right with him, which made things that are weird and hurt more. Mom and Dad were great at making things unclear and getting into fights. They would lie about things to make other people look bad. They even told Aunt's family that she was to blame for her grandmother's health problems. This made her look like the bad guy in a family story she didn't want to be a part of. That was easy. My aunt was going to my wedding. After that, I went to talk to my grandma about it. She agreed after some time of being pushed. I also told her how cruel my sister had been to me and how my family made me bring her along. Anne agreed to go, but she didn't really want to. At first, things were tough. Right away, when my sister and mom showed up, they said mean things. When my mom saw my aunt, she turned her attention to my sister. It was worth a lot of money to see her shocked and angry face. Mom got mad and asked me why I had invited Aunt. I told her it was time to make things right with her family so that we could all be happy again. Mom was very angry. She was upset, but I already told my sister-in-law what was going on. Things went smoothly at the event because she stepped in and helped keep things in order. The service was beautiful, even though things were tense. As I walked down the aisle, it felt like my family was pointing knives at me. I felt like I was standing up for myself and making my own choices for once. The wedding was lovely. At the party after the wedding, things didn't go as planned. They were. My aunt took my grandmother to a different room to talk, so I couldn't get in to see what was going on. They almost banged on the door because they were so eager to help. My sister was rude about how the wedding wasn't good enough and how the plans were too cheap while I was busy. That everyone had a great time and that people should stop making small talk and pay attention to the newlyweds. That was my sister-in-law's short and polite answer. I was tired and didn't want to deal with any of this trouble, especially my sister's constant whining. I told them to leave my aunt and grandma alone and give them some space. They didn't listen though. Instead, they yelled at me and told them I was trying to make their lives worse. Happy family, they told me I was being picky and making things worse. My husband and mother-in-law were fed up with it. They told my parents they would be kicked out if they didn't calm down. At this point, Dad lost it. He was mean to me in front of everyone and called me names. It seemed like he didn't like me and that I was always making trouble. He told me I had failed and that it had been hard to deal with the whole time. I believed I would cry. He stepped up and called the cops. They helped my parents leave the house after they came in. I'm glad my husband was there for me when things were tough. The party went on, and even though things were crazy, we had a good time into the night. I finally had time to check my phone after the service was over. It was full of texts from my family, which surprised me. At that moment, I realized I had forgotten all about my sister. She wasn't at the wedding like I thought she was when my parents were kicked out. I was being selfish for not asking our parents to my wedding. She yelled at me live on social media while she cried. She was just making up this sad story about how I'd been a nightmare all my life to make her fans laugh. She said I never knew how much my family loved and cared for me because I was always jealous of her. She told me I was a selfish brat who picked on her and always tried to get ahead of her or push her away. She said that letting my aunt come hurt the family's reputation. I was mean to my parents on the most important day of my life. It was all made up in her film. She said there were times when I was a bother and hard to love. She also said she had tried so hard to be a good sister, but I had pushed her away. She thought she was the best daughter because she took care of the family, But I was a disrespectful brat who didn't know what family meant. In the comments, people told her they were sorry and said things like, "How could your own sister do that?" Which were also very interesting. "You deserve better because you're too good for her." I didn't understand it. She ruined my wedding to look like the lucky one. My wedding wasn't fun for me because I was too busy with my sister's issues. Even on my big day, it seemed hard to get away from the chaos in my family. So I could get away, I called my grandma to try to calm down. After their short break at the wedding, Anne and her grandma had been with each other the whole time. When Grandma picked up the phone, she did sound kind of. She told me that she and Aunt had finally talked for the first time in years when I asked her how it went. Aunt seems to have talked about everything that happened years ago. Grandma told her that her parents messed up everything with her boyfriend. Aunt told Grandma that she did her best to be honest. But her parents had already lied to her, like when they said Aunt was going to run away from home. They told Grandma that Aunt didn't care what she thought. He was already planning to leave. Grandma told Aunt that she had to break up with her boyfriend or leave the family. Aunt was crushed. Grandma was shocked when she heard all of this because she thought Aunt had just quit. However, Aunt said that Dad wouldn't let her come since Grandma was hurt and had to go to the hospital. He said Grandma didn't want to see her and would not pay attention to her. Aunt thought what he said, and she didn't want to make things worse, so she got mad and left. Aunt thought Grandma had kicked her out, but Dad made Grandma think Aunt didn't care. What a mess. They started putting things together right there at my wedding. Together. Grandma even said that sending Aunt away had hurt and confused her over the years. Grandma always wondered why Aunt never called after her health scares. Aunt said she tried, but Dad or Mom always stopped her. Grandma's aunt sent her flowers after she had surgery, but Mom told her they were from a family friend. Aunt called, but the calls never went through because Mom was with them. Aunt even sent a birthday card. Mom forgot to tell anyone about it. Aunt said that after everything, she was too scared and angry to talk to anyone. Grandma said she was sorry she hadn't asked questions sooner. After they hugged and cried, all the stress from the years went away. My parents and sister were having meltdowns while I dealt with theirs, but my grandmother and aunt were able to get along. That was the only good thing about the wedding. I'm going to sue my sister for slander because I'm tired of this family. She said she wants to sue my parents for making threats and using me as a tool. My aunt and grandma are there for me. They now say that all of these problems were my fault and blame me. That's it? Ida because she didn't do what my parents asked her to do. You wish to invite my aunt? Or Ida for getting my point across? I need to hear what you think. Change 1. Hey, the wedding was a week ago. Things have been interesting. It feels better to read your words. Thanks for helping. Okay, you people who think I'm stupid and that I deserve it because I put up with my family for so long need to chill out. We are going to talk about my family. I love them. I do have different ideas now. Back then, I didn't think they'd get this low. So let's get to the news. My mother-in-law is a little mad about all the trouble, which I totally get. It's not necessary to handle this stuff right after a wedding. She's been great in every way though. Not too happy with how things turned out. Thank goodness my husband and sister-in-law are totally behind me. It's been a little easier to deal with my family because they've been so great. Also, yes, I did sue my sister over that video she sent me. Yes, I will sue her for slander. My lawyer says I have a good case. He says she hurt my reputation by telling all those lies about me, which could get her into a lot of trouble with the law. That person could be sued for mental pain and even loss of image. It sounds like she might have to pay a big fine or even take back what she said in public. To be honest, it was good for her. But that's not all. My aunt knew she would not let my parents off the hook either. They are being sued for hurting her feelings and cheating her. There is a lot of proof that they hurt her, kept her from seeing her grandmother, lied to her, and basically hurt her and lied to her for years. Their lawyer also thinks she has a good case. If things go our way, my parents could be in a lot of trouble with the law and have to do things like pay her money for the mental pain they caused. They've made her feel bad. Since the cases were brought, they have been in a complete state of panic. They first called and texted to say they were sorry and that we should drop the cases for the family's sake. They try to blame me for everything, but that doesn't work. Their only goal was to keep the family together, and they told me that my anger was making the family worse. My dad even called me mean and self-centered because I was mad at them for trying to do the right thing. But I'm really tired of them making me feel bad. Change 2. Today, Reddit, we finally had our court date. Things went so well that I couldn't have asked for more. First is my sister. She came with a poor me attitude, like she had been abused. I almost laughed out loud. In court, my lawyer showed all the proof, like the social media posts where she went live. She was crying and making up stories about how I hurt her, threw out my parents, and was a mean, selfish person. The judge didn't seem to like what she did. Even though my sister tried to act like it was just a mistake, the film made it clear. She made it clear that she was going to poke fun at me in public. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. The judge told me that what she did was planned and meant to hurt me, and she gave me money to help me deal with my feelings. It wasn't much, but it got the point across. She was also told to delete what she said and say sorry on all of her social media pages. It's likely the best part since everyone knows how much she cares about how she looks online. She told him she was kissing the wrong cook after seeing her. Let me tell you about my parents. Aunt's case was a lot harder, but she did great. Old emails, texts, and even letters she sent to her parents were used in court to show how much they had lied to her and ripped her off. The years. It was crazy. Aunt didn't care about Grandma, and Dad told her that in texts. Mom said she was Grandma and told Aunt to stay away in texts. The lawyer went over everything, and it was clear that for years my parents had been lying to her. The court agreed with Aunt too. It was found that my parents made me feel and think badly. I think they should pay her a lot of money to make up for what they did. In fact, it's more than they ever paid me. They can no longer touch her or get close to her because of this. I think she's almost more happy than anything else. They can't control her anymore, and she feels like a big weight has been lifted off her shoulders. The court didn't believe me, though, when they said they were hurt and only wanted to keep the family safe and sound. In one case, my dad yelled at the judge that my aunt and I weren't grateful for all he did for the family and that I was always a bad kid. The judge quickly told him to be quiet. Being honest, it was kind of fun to watch. That's where we are now. People have told my aunt what to do and shamed my sister on social media. Finally, my parents were told what they did was wrong. 3. The roller coaster keeps going, but this time it looks like it's going in the right way. Finally, some good news. Grandma has decided to kick Mom and Dad out of her home, property, and passing on. That is correct, you did read that. She's had enough of how they treat her. And explaining everything to my mom and me,